Felt brooches and more. Tip 4, types of stitches. There are 2 types of stitches that I use when I'm hand sewing felt brooches. I use a running stitch, a straight stitch, and a whip stitch. I'm going to show you the running stitch to stitch on the little red breast on the robin. The first thing I have done, I have tied a little knot in the end of my thread to get me started. I'm going to start at the edge here. You can start at whatever side you like, whatever side feels comfortable for the direction of sewing. So I'm going to start on the inside, so on the bottom, I'm going to come up through both pieces. And then I'm going to make a really short stitch. Can you see that? There we go, a really short stitch. And go straight back down. From the back, I'm going to come along about the same length as my stitch. And I'm just going to carry on like that along the breast. You can use this type of stitch to sew on most of the elements for the felt brooches. In fact, I think all of the felt brooches in this kit can be stitched in this way, and you can do the outside like this as well. So you're basically going up and down when you're coming through from the back. Give it a wee gentle poke through if you can see, to get your needle in just the right place. And you want to keep a nice short stitch, and you don't want a large gap between your stitches. When you're stitching around the outside, these are the stitches that are going to keep your front and back together, and the stuffing inside, so you want to have a nice short stitch so that when you pop the stuffing inside, it can't come out through the gaps. So I'm going to carry on to the end. This will be the last stitch. There we go, so that's the last stitch. Because I've got a double layer here, I'm not going to do my double stitch over the one here. I'm going to flip over to the back, and I'm going to do a little double stitch just into the brown. So if I do this, if I do this, just on this side, I'll do a little double stitch, so one on top of the other, like that. If you turn it over, you can't see that on this side of the felt, so it's going to be on the inside. I'm going to pop my needle in my felt. I'm going to trim off leaving a little tail that's going to tuck inside when we stitch the outside. Those tails will be hidden inside. So the next stitch I'm going to show you is a whip stitch, which goes over the edge of the felt, and I'm going to show you this stitching a front and back piece together. So I'm going to line these up. I'm going to start in between the layers so that my end, the little end tail, is hidden inside. So there we go. I'll tuck my little tail in, make sure that my pieces are matched up. And for this one, instead of going up and down, we're going to go over the edge, and we're always coming up from the back. And just like before, we're going to do small stitches so they're quite close to each other. We don't want any of our stuffing coming out. So keep going over the edge and up through the back with each stitch. And you're going to pull them tight, but not too tight. You don't, if you pull it too tight, you'll get all these little puckers. So over the edge, up through the back, give it a little pull just to make sure it's closed up. There we go. And that's how that looks, over the edge and up through from the back. You can see how we're doing that. And a little small gap in between each stitch, and as you go along you're going to try and keep these nice and even, so an even distance between each other and an even distance in from the edge. There we go. And that's the whip stitch, or as some of the girls at one of the kids' workshops called it before, the over the edge stitch.